Level 1. The arrival. You step off the bus in the dark at Fort Moore, Georgia, and the world doesn't wait for you to adjust. The air feels different the moment you breathe it in. Heavier, sharper, like it already belongs to something else. You're still trying to orient yourself, still trying to process where to stand, what to do, how to look, when a voice cuts through everything before you even fully register the environment. It's not just loud, it's immediate, like it was already speaking before you arrived and only now decided to include you. You realize very quickly that nothing here is asking for your comfort or your understanding. 20 minutes ago, you were still in the civilian world, sitting in a seat, holding on to a small piece of normal life you didn't realize was about to end. A phone, a message you didn't send, thoughts that still belonged to a different identity. That version of you doesn't carry over cleanly. It starts getting stripped away immediately. First your belongings, then your clothes, then the sense that anything about you as an individual matters in this space. You're told what to do before you fully understand the question being asked. And by the time you start to catch up, you realize the pace was never meant to slow down for you in the first place. Level 2. Private training. Days start before daylight and don't really end. They just transition into the next phase of exhaustion. You move because you're told to move, not because you've had time to understand why. Every action is corrected, repeated, and refined until hesitation disappears. Marching becomes less about walking in step and more about losing the idea that you were ever meant to move alone. Weapons are introduced the same way everything else is, quickly, without ceremony, and with immediate expectation that you will adapt. There is no pause for comfort or reflection, only repetition until the unfamiliar starts to feel routine. The system is built so that individual mistakes don't stay individual for long. If one person fails, everyone pays for it, and that changes how you see the people next to you. At first, frustration builds, silent blame, quiet resentment, the instinct to separate yourself from whoever is slowing things down. But over time, something shifts. You start adjusting not just for yourself, but for the group, because survival in this environment depends less on personal performance and more on collective stability. Quitting is always an option in theory, but in practice, it becomes harder to choose than continuing. Level 3. The specialist. You arrive at your first unit expecting something close to constant intensity. Instead, you find something more uneven. There are moments where everything moves fast, tasks, deadlines, expectations, but they are separated by long stretches of waiting that no one really explains. You are now a specialist, an E4, which means you are trusted to do your job, but not expected to understand the system around it. You learn quickly that the Army is not just action or discipline. It is timing, cycles, and controlled inactivity disguised as structure. Over time, you adapt to the rhythm. You learn what matters and what only exists because it has always existed. Some tasks are important, others are procedural, and many are both at the same time depending on who is watching. You start recognizing patterns, when to step forward, when to stay quiet, when to look occupied even if nothing is happening. You realize that survival here isn't about constant effort. It's about understanding when effort is being measured. Level 4. Sergeant. The moment you become a sergeant, the environment doesn't change, but your position inside it does. You are no longer just responsible for your own performance. Now other people's performance is attached to your name. Small teams sit under your authority, and their mistakes don't stay with them for long. They travel upward and they land on you. What used to be your job becomes something more complex, making sure other people can do theirs under pressure, under rules, under time constraints that never feel realistic. You quickly learn that leadership here is not about inspiration or presence. It is about constant management of problems that don't follow schedules. Counseling sessions, evaluations, corrective actions, reports that never end. You are expected to enforce standards that you didn't create, explain expectations you didn't set, and correct behaviors you may not have time to fully understand. Over time, something subtle happens. You stop thinking of leadership as directing people and start thinking of it as absorbing everything they can't handle alone. Level 5. Staff Sergeant. By the time you reach Staff Sergeant, repetition has turned into intuition. You no longer wait to be told how things work. You recognize it instantly. The system doesn't feel new anymore. It feels familiar in a way that removes surprise but not pressure. You're responsible for larger groups now, and with that comes a different kind of awareness. You can see patterns in people before they even see them in themselves. Who will adapt, who will struggle, and who is slowly running out of capacity without saying it out loud. Your body starts to carry the job in ways your schedule doesn't reflect. Fatigue lingers longer. Small pains stop being temporary. Noise, movement, and constant readiness begin to accumulate over time. You enforce standards while understanding their cost more clearly than you did before. And somewhere in that balance, you realize your role has shifted again, not just enforcing expectations, but translating them into something real enough that actual people can survive under them. Level 6, First Sergeant. At First Sergeant, everything starts coming to you first. Not because you asked for it, but because there is nowhere else for it to go. If something breaks in the company, discipline, readiness, morale, paperwork, performance, it lands in your space before it reaches anyone above you. You are now the central point where systems and people collide. Command gives direction, but you are the one who makes sure it actually happens in a world full of delays, excuses, and human unpredictability. You know more about your soldiers than most people ever will. Not just their job performance, but the parts of their lives that spill into it. Stress, instability, pressure, silence. You see who is slipping before it becomes visible on paper. You attend ceremonies that mark absence and carry conversations that don't have solutions. Over time, you stop thinking of yourself as part of the structure. You become the place where the structure meets reality, and sometimes breaks against it. Level 7, Sergeant Major. At Sergeant Major, you are no longer operating inside the system in the same way. You are part of how it remembers itself. Your experience becomes reference material. Your judgment becomes guidance. You sit in spaces where decisions are no longer about individual soldiers or even single units, but about how entire formations function over time. The conversations shift from execution to design, from immediate problems to long-term consequences. You are expected to translate reality upward. What actually happens when policies meet people, when training plans meet fatigue, when strategy meets limits. Most of what you say is not about preference, but feasibility. You've seen enough cycles to know what looks good on paper and what survives contact with reality. And slowly, your role becomes less about leading people directly and more about ensuring the institution does not forget what leadership costs at ground level. Level 8, Second Lieutenant. A second lieutenant enters the system with immediate authority and very little lived context for how that authority actually functions. The rank arrives in full, but understanding arrives in fragments. You are placed in charge of soldiers who already know more than you about the day-to-day reality of the job, and that imbalance is obvious from the beginning, even if no one says it directly. Your responsibility is real, but your intuition is still forming. So you learn in motion. You plan, brief, and issue direction, then watch it get interpreted by people who have been doing this far longer than you have. The smartest adjustment is learning when to lead decisively and when to listen without defensiveness. Over time, you begin to understand that your role is not to outperform experience. It is to organize it, align it, and slowly grow into it without letting authority outrun competence. Level 9, Colonel. At Colonel, the scale changes everything. You are no longer dealing with individuals or even small units. You are responsible for entire organizations that function as living systems. Thousands of soldiers, dozens of subordinate commands, layers of logistics, training cycles, readiness reports, and operational demands all converge under your authority. Nothing you deal with is simple anymore because nothing exists in isolation. Your days are built around briefings, decisions, and trade-offs that rarely have clean answers. Every choice moves something forward while delaying something else. You don't see the direct outcome of most decisions, you see their effects filtered through layers of command. At this level, leadership becomes less about direct control and more about maintaining coherence across complexity. You are constantly balancing intent from above with reality from below, knowing both are valid and neither is complete on its own. Level 10, General Officer. At General Officer level, the scope is no longer measured in units or even organizations. It is measured in entire theaters of operation, national priorities, and global posture. You are now responsible for shaping force structure, readiness, and deployment strategy across regions where decisions carry consequences you will never directly witness. Most of your work happens in briefings, secure rooms, and long cycles of planning where the outcome of your choices is delayed, distributed, and often invisible until much later. Information reaches you already filtered, already interpreted, already reduced into summaries of reality. Your job is to make decisions at that distance without losing accuracy or accountability. You engage with political leadership, allied command structures, and institutional oversight, all while understanding that every strategic direction eventually becomes something carried out by individual soldiers in specific physical moments of risk. At this level, leadership is no longer about proximity to action. It is about responsibility for outcomes you can influence, but rarely observe directly.